It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo.
With us today, we got Mark Pitman. We didn't even go over this. Normally, we talk about how to introduce you. President, CEO, owner, founder?
President and owner, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
California Waters?
California Waters.
Perfect.
We are a commercial pool and water feature design build expert that also provides post-construction maintenance. Located near Belinda, approximately about 60 employees, and we operate throughout the state of California. We have two main divisions. One is like the maintenance and repair division, which essentially we maintain everything that's post-construction, both water features and commercial pools. And then after that, the other division is our design, what we call DEC, Design Engineering Construction. It's our design build arm. And both divisions rely on each other. Obviously post-construction maintenance, we want them to take over everything, keep the revenue in-house, and then vice versa. If there's ever stuff that's being designed, we go back to the maintenance side to figure out what their problems are. So when we design it, we're designing it at a higher level. So we continue to get better.
That works. That was a much better introduction than I could have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was much better.
See, sometimes we just got to go off the fly.
Yeah, perfect.
Save it for the mic.
Whatever you guys want.
So, I mean, have you been in pools forever? How did you get started in the construction space?
No, so to make a long story short, 2008, 2009, was working for a company called PWS out of LA. I was in sales, and I had already owned a couple laundromats. I was in the laundromat business, so I'd already...
Seems like a natural transition.
Yeah.
Laundromats,
had two or three laundromats. There was a colleague of mine who had left the business, who had moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and started in the pool maintenance, acquired a pool maintenance company. So we started looking into, my partner and I looked into stuff like that, and we came across, I didn't want to be in the pool maintenance business, but I wanted to be in something that was like unique or niche, because I didn't want to compete on price completely.
Right.
I wanted to be more value added. And so we came across California Waters, which was owned by a gentleman who maintained, I want to say, 50, 60 accounts here in Southern California. A very low-key business. I think at the time he had 5 or 6 employees. I felt like I could do well. I could, not knowing anything. I didn't know anything.
And it was commercial at the time too when you bought
it? Was all commercial. Okay. Yeah. I didn't want to deal with residential.
Yeah.
So acquired the company and just started growing. We went from 600,000 in sales our first year, and last year we did almost 14 million. So just kept on growing for the last 10.
So what was the first year? When did you start it? Or when did you take over?
2009.
2009.
Yeah, 2009.
Okay.
Right in the heart of the recession. We just grew right through it.
Wow.
So at the same time, you're learning. You're trying to understand the business, the ins and outs, people. There's a lot of different challenges. It took about 5 or 6 years to understand conceptually how everything worked. And then at the same time, then you realize you don't have the right people. And then as you grow and you develop and you get a little bit better and you get a little bit bigger, you have to get better people. So it's been an evolution to this point.
Well, and coming from outside of the industry, right? A lot of the people that we talk to grow up in it, right? Their family was in it or whatever. Then they start their own business or they take over the family business. But who did you? I mean, was there somebody that you had as a mentor or as a guide through this process of learning construction and the way that type of business works, or did you just figure it out on your own?
There's people that kind of assisted along the way, but a lot of it was just self-learning, just basically getting out there, figuring things out. The way it transitioned was we did the maintenance, and we would do the repairs. And what was happening is that a lot of the new construction, there was like defects or there was issues. Well, we were the ones that basically maintaining it. So we'd be reporting back to the property managers and letting them know, hey, this is what's going on.
This is how it was designed wrong.
So after you do that enough times and you're dealing with these contractors and things aren't being done and they're saying, oh, it's the maintenance guys that are doing it incorrectly, and you have to go and prove to them that they're not, what they're saying is not true.
Right.
I'm like, why are we not doing the construction side? Like, why are we just doing maintenance? Because obviously there's a lack of competency there. We might as well start looking into it. And so what we started doing is we started diving into it. We just got our feet wet. Our first project out of the gate was, no pun intended, was a $3 million project, Anaheim Convention Center. So it was go big or go home.
Dang, man.
And we just let's figure it out. And we had enough people on staff who knew enough that we just had to work through the things we didn't know and put it together, and we did. And after that, it gives you a bunch of confidence moving forward to be
for sure.
Where are we going to head
that's your
from
first
here?
job, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And we've just kept on growing. And like I said, we've had transitions with people, and we kept on trying to find better people, training development, and just keep on pushing.
What was the mentality on that first big commercial project with the Anaheim Convention Center? Was it like all hands on deck and no sleep because we want to make sure we get it right? What?
I think that's always been the mentality for most of our staff, but on that particular one, it was more or less like I think it was going to be a make or break us. So like out of the gate, I either wanted to figure out I could do it or I can't do it, right? Yeah. I was young enough at the time to be like, if this doesn't work, I could go do something else. Didn't matter at the time. But
if we flop here, I'll just find something else.
I did not lack confidence that we were going to be able to get it done.
Clearly.
So, but at the same time,
I don't think you can go to a job like that with a lack of confidence.
But at the same time, you still had to get it done. So a lot of people stepped up, and there was a lot of long hours and everything else to get it done. And I mean, like anything else, like any other company, you figure it out.
What was their response? Did they ask you for references? Did they ask questions like, "Is this your first big project?"
How did you get on that job?
How did you get past
well,
that?
we got the bonding. So we had good financials.
Yeah.
We were pretty. Our background is more or less.
I was going to say bonding is a big part of that.
Finance,
process,
accounting, stuff like that is where we're really strong on, and so we were able to bond the project, which was a big deal. Yeah. Basically, at that point in time, they don't really care, right?
Yeah.
Either you perform or you don't perform.
Because you got
but we put a lot of money on the line to make it happen too, and like I said, it worked out.
Yeah.
It's still there. It's doing. We maintained it for I think like 5 or 6 years after we built it. I think they took it in house just recently, but it's one of our monumental projects, and it's been there for a while.
That's cool too, because it's
awesome.
something that you can like see, feel, touch, right? Like you drive by, like it's a big deal.
Yeah,
like,
I did that.
Yeah. I think it's funny to see the difference, right? Like you came from a business background and decided let's own a construction company or a contracting company, right? There's a lot of contractors that try and become businessmen, and that's kind of where that fails. So with the lack of experience in the construction side, when you took over, was there somebody in the field on the operations side that was part of that team for you that kind of helped that side of it for you?
I have those people now, but back then I didn't have them. We were trying to figure it out. So you don't know what you don't know when you're starting off. Yeah. And so a lot of it was more hands-on. I was very, very hands-on in the beginning. I was in the field a lot, making sure things were done correctly. Not that we didn't have good guys, but we didn't have good leadership in the field. So there was obviously that lack of it. And when you don't have good leadership, people are going to take advantage of the situation.
Right.
And it took a while to get that in place. But at that time, it was just more, like I said, more hands-on involvement, being in the field. Seeing what's going on, you start to figure things out if you're listening and you're paying attention, and really, like I said, you got to go back to the mentality of survival at that time. Let's just survive this, and then we'll sit down and we'll learn from it. We'll do a post-mortem and kind of learn from everything. And
what just happened there? Let's figure that out.
And then we'll move forward. But at the time, thinking back, we had good people, but we did lack leadership in the field for sure. That was definitely something that we lacked. I have it now though. Yeah.
So how do you find those people? Where were you? What was the process like being successful in finding those kind of people?
Well, I think when you're doing the right thing, you attract talent. And I think that has helped over the years. I think the other thing too is that we've had to modify how we manage, people. If you have really good people, you can't micromanage them, right? You got to give them autonomy. You got to give them room to make mistakes. When you're a small company and you're in like survival mode, I think what happens is any little mistake, what affects your bottom line, not necessarily the company's bottom line, but when you personalize it, then what happens is your behavior to your employees is going to be somewhat negative. So every time there's a mistake, they're going to be scared to make a mistake where they don't want to take ownership or responsibility, right? So in the beginning, you don't realize you're doing it, but you tend to do that because you're so financially impacted by it. Yeah. But as you grow, you become less and less financially impacted personally. And then what happens is either two things happen. The people grow with you, or you realize you hit a point where certain individuals cannot take it to the next level where the company's headed, and you have to replace them. And I think that's just a transition. That's something that happens over a period of time, many, many months, many years. And when you have good leadership, you recognize it right away, though, because the field, they will respond. At our company, our culture is based on supporting the field. So everybody that works in that office, their job is to work for the field. It's the vice versa of most construction companies. A lot of construction companies, it's like the brains are in the office, and the guys in the field are like laborers. But that's not our culture. Our culture is the exact opposite of that. We're just like little mini manufacturing facilities. And so the guys that actually do the manufacturing, our job is to support them, give them the tools, get them the material, the things that they need in order to make money. If we don't do that, then everybody in the office doesn't have jobs. So our culture is actually, it's reversed, it's flipped. We support the field. We work for the field. We are there to support them, give them whatever they need so that they can get things done in a manner that
mentality.
It's like
that
a
makes us
military
money.
mentality,
Well,
like battlefield.
And what it also does is it kind of builds up that stigma of a laborer, right, in that construction space that people are afraid to get into or don't want to get into because it's kind of looked down upon. Whereas, in your company, you're flipping that script, right, and you're making them the heroes, and you guys are supporting them because they're the ones.
Well, at the end of the day,
and doing the work.
They're the ones that build it, so
Right.
they're going to make or break you. If we do well, it's because for the most part, they're the ones that did well. We beat our budget. We had our productivity was higher than it should be. You could have the greatest people in the office. You could have the top project managers and senior PMs and controllers and CF. You could have all the greatest people in the world, but if you don't have the field, it doesn't matter because the end result of what you're producing, you don't have the people that have the skill set to produce it. It's really pointless.
No, I love that, and that's probably why you guys are attracting good talent too, right? I mean, I'm sure.
I think that's a part of it, and we've made our mistakes along the ways, and we're continuing to grow and learn from that. But I think the key where we're at now is hiring the right people, and we're doing a lot of new stuff on the hiring front. So we have a very we've hired some consultants, and we're really figuring this out. So when we go to hire somebody, we're hiring the right people for the position.
So
and
what
the company.
kind of speak to that a little bit? What are there one or two things that are kind of like mind blowing for you, or like totally out of left
from what you were
field?
doing
kind
before?
We're
of
doing a
things
lot
that
of
you
behavioral assessments
Okay.
towards the end before
Yeah.
we make offers. I think that we're using consultants
for the
now.
field employees too.
Not so much for the field. The field
Okay.
is very different because
Right.
a lot of it's word of mouth.
Right.
Like if
Yeah.
you're really good, good people attract good people, right?
Right.
Especially in the field.
Right.
So that's actually a little bit easier. The field is much easier than the office, but in the field, you will attract talent if you have talent because those guys always want to work with
And
the
you
guys
treat
that are
them
just
well
as good.
too, right? I mean, yeah,
100%.
like you guys do, yeah.
You just got to take care of them. You give them the path, you pave the path for them, and let them just figure it out from there. In the field, they're completely different. A lot easier to attract talent if you have good people. In the office, it's a little bit different. When you're attracting PMs or somebody in accounting or somebody in purchasing,
Right.
the process is completely different. Especially nowadays with COVID, everything's kind of changed and it's become a little bit harder to attract talent. But you just have to, like I said, we know what we know and we know what we don't know. So we focus on bringing in people who
Right.
who know what we don't
Right.
know.
Right.
And that's been kind of the key for us the last 6 months. So
The last 6 months.
Yeah, at least, right? At least the last 6 months.
Jeez.
What's what are you guys doing from an employee standpoint? I know obviously you guys have that mentality of kind of everybody supporting the field guys, but from a benefit standpoint or anything along those lines to kind of retain that talent, are there things that you guys are doing that you think is
So they don't
unique or
get picked
different?
off, yeah.
I would start with leadership. I think you have to have good leadership, both in the office and the field. They have to believe that you have their best interests in mind. I think that's that's number one. Leadership I think is the biggest thing. So if you have a good leader that's running the field, most people are going to respond. If you don't have a good leader and they don't feel like the company has their backs or they feel insecure in some way or another, there is the potential for them to leave and go somewhere else. I think that's number one. Number two, you got to pay at least market. We do probably 30% of our work is prevailing wage or public works, so there is an added
Easy,
benefit.
Yeah.
One of the things we did differently, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, is we created a 401k plan, and so on all that prevailing wage work, we set it up so that all that money goes into the 401k plan. So I have guys now that by the time they retire, they'll have $1 million+ in that account. Whereas if they would have gone to another company and they got cashed out and paid all their taxes on that money, they probably would be left with nothing at the end of retirement or very little. So a lot of guys are going to be able to retire and do much better from the field than even some of the office people, just because on that prevailing wage work, the fringe benefit is going to their tax-free is going to their 401k account.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
So
pretty.
there's
That's
stuff
pretty
like that.
unique from a field perspective. There's not many companies out there setting up a 401k for their field guys.
So that's
For
been
sure.
I think it's been really helpful. I think it's benefited a lot of people. In the beginning, we were nervous that when we rolled it out, they wanted the cash, right? They wanted that cash benefit, even though they're paying taxes on it. So it took a while for them to buy in. But I think now that they have it and they've seen over 3 or 4 years now how much that's grown, I think it's a huge deal. So I think that's important, giving them the tools they need. That's another thing I hear a lot in the industry. they don't have the right tools, or they're not
Right.
willing to spend money on this or that. I don't think that's the case here. If somebody needs something to increase productivity, like, we're the first ones on it. We are right now in the process of going completely digital on all our plans. The field can be completely digital.
Is that because did you have that plan from a while back? Has that been in the process, or is that because of COVID?
No, it's been in the process for about a year, a little over a year and a half. We started researching it, but we're finally bringing it to fruition. Really, what it is just streamlines everything. So when the field and the office are communicating anything that the field needs, instead of having to go back to the trailer and get a set of plans and go through it, or find submittals, or
iPads
find
and all that stuff. And,
literally, it's all iPads now, and they can just click buttons and everything's there. The shop drawings are there. It's going to, the other thing is rework. It's going to, there's so many things that get lost in email.
Right.
So it's going to decrease that. I'm pretty confident. We did an ROI analysis. It's going to be really good for our company moving forward. And I think it's the future. I think construction technology is
it's definitely moving that way for sure. Yeah. I mean,
if you're not getting on board, you're going to be left behind in the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh, at least. I mean, probably in my opinion, quicker. I mean, it's moving really, really quickly.
Yeah, construction is one of the industries that, out of all the industries, if you go back from like the 70s, that have not really increased productivity like manufacturing and other types of industries.
No, very.
I don't know if that's because of the labor unions, or I'm not sure exactly. I'm sure there's been.
I think a lot of it is, in my opinion, I think it's kind of like that good old boy mentality, or like that. This is the way we've done it. It's a very proud industry, right? Like, this is the way I've done it for years. Why do I want to change it? Why do I need to change it? This is the way my dad did it. My grandpa did it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But you're getting a lot of youth into the
changing the mentality.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of youth into the industry right now, and I think people like you are a big reason for that, right? Like the way you guys are treating the guys in the field, because for a long time they were literally just grunts, right? A means to an end.
Yeah, correct.
But the way you guys are treating it you're attracting a lot of that youth, I think, as well, and providing a future, right? 401ks and advancement. I have to imagine the guys that you hire see a path to growth, not only because of the way you guys are growing, but I mean, you got to be able. I'd have to imagine it's opening up, leadership roles.
It is. It was a good process until COVID hit, but right now our biggest focus on training development, getting our staff at different levels, up to a higher skill set so they can take on more stuff. Once you're able to take on more stuff, the company has the ability to grow, right?
Yeah.
If everybody has the same skill set, you're kind of limited. So right now our focus is that, and then the work will come a little bit later after that. Right now with COVID and everything that's happening in our world, I know a lot of people are in survival mode. My mentality is completely different than survival mode, but I can understand why you would.
Well, yeah, there's definitely two different, and we've seen them both kind of on this show in the last 6 months. There's the people that during
survival
this either just
aggressive.
hunker down and figure out how to survive, and then there's the other people that say, no, F that.
We're
just
hunting,
we're gonna push and grow and do all the other things. Yeah.
Those are the ones that are gonna. I grew through the last recession, and we, not knowing anything really,
Right.
honestly. So this one, I just look at it completely different. I think there's a lot of opportunities to use technology to advance your business without having to hire additional people.
Yep.
I see a lot of opportunities for training development. The one thing about I can't stand about construction is the training development aspect of it it lacks in a lot of different ways. Specifically our trade, so we're doing a lot of in-house training development videos and stuff like that. It's kind of like what you guys are doing to help grow our people. And I think you couple that with the good customer service and the quality. It's a killer combination.
It's easy to grow at that point.
It really is, honestly. Yeah. The one thing about construction too I've learned is I thought in the beginning you need more marketing, to help grow the company. I believe that's less and less. Your marketing really is your past projects and your clientele and the customer service you provide.
Well, especially in the industry you guys are in, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's funny because we talk about that sometimes, especially because this is part of that process, right? The marketing and the digital and all that kind of stuff. And the people that are in the residential space tend to focus a lot more on that because that's where their buyers are, right? They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on TikTok and seeing all those videos. But what you guys are doing, I mean, you could almost just post pictures of all your past work.
That's essentially
and all it
what
is,
it's that, and you'd be surprised like how much referral work comes from just touching people, just doing good work, just doing what you say you're going to do. It's actually really easy in construction to just do what you say you're going to do. You know, if you're going to show up,
life, right? I mean,
if you're going to show up, say you're going to just show up.
Yeah.
If you're going to do what you say you're going to, just do it. That's all you have to do. It's really that simple. Because there's so many contractors out there that don't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's easier to stand
Easy
out.
to separate yourself. Yeah. So from a, what was I going to say? From a training standpoint, are you guys developing a lot of that in-house?
Yeah.
Or do you get it from manufacturers? Or how do you guys?
No, a lot of it's in-house. We do bring in different consultants, or we'll bring in different trade groups that provide training on different parts, different things that they focus on. But a lot of it's in-house. It's how we want to build it, how we build it, why we build it the way we build it, the quality. We're really focusing on that. Things to pay attention, like the ins and outs, the little things that you don't really pay,
Right.
you don't recognize until somebody brings them to your attention. We're focusing on that type of stuff. We're also focusing, like for our project management team, we're really automating, like when you get a new project, how to buy out the project, like from top. I mean, basically soup to nuts. Like here's the process, here's the formula, here's where you're gonna have the nuances or what you need to focus on. And then in the same meetings, our purchasing departments in those meetings, our warehouse departments in those meetings, so everybody understands how the company as a whole builds each project, how they buy it, why they buy it the way they do, the who, what, when, where, why.
Right.
We're focusing on that company-wide. So if one person makes a mistake, maybe somebody else down the line is catching it. And so far, it's working. And people feel like they're part of the team.
Well, and they feel invested right at that point, like they've got some ownership in it.
Yeah, I will say this. I've always said to my team that construction is by far the biggest team sport.
Yeah.
There are multiple people who need to do multiple things in order for it to be successful. And it's a domino effect if one of those key players makes a mistake, right?
Yeah,
It's a complete domino effect. And so it's the ultimate team sport, more than any other industry I can think of. Manufacturing now, you have robotics and you have AI and all these other things that are working on, right? You don't necessarily need people as much. But in construction, I mean, what we build is built by people.
Yeah.
We don't have a bunch of machines running around building things. We don't have machines ordering things. So it is by far the ultimate team sport when it comes to building a business in this industry, by far.
So in terms of that training, going back to that, just was that an intentional thing? Was that as a result of bringing in consultants and leadership in that area? Or was it as a result of somebody dropping the ball, for instance, on that team? Like, where was the genesis of that, of bringing on that training in-house, essentially?
The genesis was like, how do you get better? How do you develop your team? Like when you start to ask yourself that question, how do they know what to do when the company wants them to do? What is as the company, what is our mission? How do we want to build it? Like nobody really knew,
right.
Okay, we want to do it this way for the following reasons. They would know through osmosis. We go in the field, we see something, okay, next time do it this way, and then everybody would learn. But the idea was, how do you get everybody on the same page so they understand how to build it from day one, how to buy it from day, to buy it out, and the different nuances between all the different departments, right? We needed to define that. And once you define that, then as you define it, you start training them. Okay, well, when you do a takeoff on your underground plumbing, here's the 5 or 10 things you need to know. Here's what you need to pay attention to. Here's what mistakes happen. And as they go through these trainings, they start to develop, their own little skill sets, and they start to learn, like, okay, I understand why that went wrong. Okay, I see now. And then you have them do their own testing and their own takeoffs, and you start to realize what they understand and what they don't understand, so you can focus on what they don't understand. But you don't understand. Everybody's a little bit different, so you don't really know exactly what this person's good at versus that person's good at until you start these trainings.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
But well, I realized as you were talking just now and answering that question, you're basically a visionary. I mean, that is your role as the president and the owner of the company, essentially. But just by the response of what you gave me just now, it shows that it wasn't something that you stubbed your toe, and maybe you did, right? We all learn, based off mistakes. Failure is the best teacher.
Yep.
But that being said, it's not like you're living, breathing, eating, sleeping. I imagine you're probably sitting at home with your kids at times and just things coming in. How can we get better? What can we do to, be more efficient in terms of how we're building, how we're training, how we're doing our, as opposed to, just kind of like on autopilot. Like, I feel like there's some of the guys that we bring into the show that are, they kind of learn as they go, and then they're ho-hum, they're fine, but this is
the difference between reactionary
different
and
animal.
proaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Reactive versus
Yeah.
proactive.
Yeah, completely. Even going back to Anaheim and building that pool, that's completely, the idea of like, well, how can we like, create it so that we're not having issues like we are on the maintenance side. Well, we'll build it and then we'll do it better, and then we don't have those issues on the back end, right?
Yeah, and even today, like, we're good at. I know what we're really. We're known for our quality, hands down. I'll go up against anybody on that one. We're known for our quality. We're not the cheapest, we'll never will be, but we are known for that. Yeah. But with that being said, I know what we're good at, what we're not good at. So I know I don't have to worry about this stuff because everybody understands that clearly. Right. But here are the things we need to continue focusing on growing. Right. But the thing is that pool keeps on getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? The little things that we need to work on. The key, though, is developing your staff for the next level. So eventually, we're a pretty young company, but eventually these people will age to a certain point where you have to have the next level in order to grow. So that's the key. The key is not the guys that know what they're doing. It's the key of getting the guys on the same page that know what they're doing. So the younger guys coming up understand what
they can train all that next generation for you, right? If everybody understands every aspect of the business and why you do everything, it's a lot easier to explain that process or train the replacement, if you will, for that next generation too. Exactly. So that you're not having to do all that and reinvent the wheel every time.
That is key. The other thing that's key is, like, if you want to grow, yeah, you can go hire. I could go hire 20 people, but they are going to have 20 different ways of doing what they know how to do, right? So once again, company has to define, the California Waters way. How do we want things done, and why do we want it done that way? Right. Why do we want to use this material versus that material? We have reasons why, but do they know that? Yeah. So once we define that and we clearly communicate that, and we constantly, like I said, if I hire a new guy now, he'll come in and for the first week he'll just nothing but watch videos for the entire week, and start asking questions about all the videos. Yeah. The idea is by the time we get that guy to the field or get that guy ready to go in his or her position, they have a good understanding of why we do certain things.
Their culture. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's important. Through my tenure, working there in other companies, nobody has ever done any training. It was always on the job training. You figure it out. It's kind of been a sink or swim mentality. Especially in construction, it's one of those things where I don't know of too many construction companies that provide really good detailed training. I'm sure the big ones do, but most of them don't.
Well, it's like you said,
know it or you don't, and either you make it or you don't make it.
Right.
Well, there's two different mentalities, right? There's hire the talent, hope they fit your culture, and I feel like that's a certain level of contractor, and then there's kind of where you guys are headed and what you've started that process of. Let's hire the people, train them, fit our culture, and then we'll teach them how to do the job. That way, they've got that good foundation.
Yeah, our controller always say, hire for aptitude and attitude, and we'll take care of the rest.
Right.
And that's and the thing is that when you bring in somebody new to the industry that does nothing about what you do, you're going to be able to train them the exact way you want things done. Versus they have preconceived notions of how things were done at 5 other places they worked at, and we've gone through that, and it's like, no, we don't do it that way, and here's the reasons why. It's hard for people to buy in once they've had that experience and knowledge. So it's almost easier in some respects, depending on the actual position, to bring in people with no knowledge and train them exactly the way you want it done. Yeah. As long as they have the aptitude level and they can grasp what you're trying to teach them, I think overall you'll be successful. It just takes time.
Yeah. So going back to that growth process, I think it's important for a lot of people to hear and understand. Obviously, you guys added a vertical, right, going from just maintenance to the construction piece as well, but I have to imagine that the maintenance was growing quite a bit before you got to that point as well. I mean, what were some of the things that kind of were the catalysts for growth outside of adding the vertical that I think that you think got helped you to get to where you are now?
The evolution, I want to say that we doubled the maintenance and service division before we started basically growing into the next, which would into construction. Yeah. I want to say it was either double or maybe we grew 150%, something to that extent. Like I said, what was happening, the evolution was we were having to deal with new projects. I remember this like it was yesterday. We were having to deal with new projects, and we're maintaining them, and it's like we're reporting back to the property manager that things aren't working. And they since it was under warranty, they would call the contractor to contractor to come out and say everything's fine, and they'd be modifying the panel, or they would be doing whatever they'd be doing, and we'd be like, no, we're still having these issues. So there was always this back and forth, right? And it got to the point where so many different times it's like, okay, well, what I saw was an opportunity. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, why are we not at least looking into doing that? And then once you get to meet some of the people that are running those businesses and so forth, you're like, okay, I think I can give it a shot and we'll see what happens. And essentially that's what we did. We just started growing. And then once I get into the construction side, I started realizing things that that were wrong on the design side. And then I started adding the design components, so we became design build.
So you guys have designers on staff
Yes,
in-house now?
yes.
Oh, wow. You don't sub any of that out, huh?
We sub out the structural engineering.
Okay.
We don't deal with that. We sub out the electrical engineering, but everything else we do in-house.
Wow.
So we just need somebody to stamp our plans on the structural and electrical, but everything else we do, we stamp and we self-perform.
Wow.
So we became experts
Turnkey almost, yeah.
at the design side. Yeah, we call it the 360-degree life cycle. We take care of from the time it gets designed all the way time to post-construction maintenance. And then when you want to renovate it and start over again, we do all that. But bringing that end of it, like the design, then we became we're experts at the design. We know what works, what doesn't work, why.
Right.
We know the codes. And having that knowledge base, especially on the construction side, because you got guys that, they know how to build things, but that doesn't mean they sit there and they can read the code book and they're like, know every single thing about the code.
Yeah.
Well,
in most cases, they don't know anything. Yeah.
But the one advantage we have is there's a lot of different people that are learning and understanding that stuff. And so we're able to catch things most of the time before somebody else catches them. So it makes us stand out. It makes our jobs easier because we're not just a contractor. We're also kind of a consultant, if you think about it that way.
Yeah.
Especially on the sales side, we're doing a lot of consulting work to get new projects.
Making sure it's done correctly,
Yeah, I mean, that's
so if I'm here, it's not like it's not necessarily that you saw this business and thought, hey, we need to take this to 10, 12, 15 million. It was more that the opportunity was there because it makes your job easier on this side to do this side correctly.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I looked at it as an opportunity. We didn't know what we could or how much we could do in revenue on the construction side until we got into it and started, working out the kinks and figuring things out. Right? We didn't really have much of a. We didn't put a ballpark together. We wanted to do 5 million.
Right.
We wanted to grow into it and figure it out, and it took about 3 to 5 years to really start to figure out the pieces. But once we started putting those together, then it's easy to put projections together and start looking at stuff from a business standpoint where we wanted to grow. But in the beginning, I think more or less it was like let's get our feet wet and see if
with
this
a
is
$3
something.
million Anaheim.
Let's see if this is something we were interested in taking on. And the other thing too is it's exciting, right?
Yeah.
It's if you want to grow, sometimes you got to step outside your comfort zone. You got to push yourself. You got to push the people around you. That's the only way you're going to do it. Because once you do accomplish it, you can look back and be like, all right, what's the next thing? And people are on board for that. But when you don't do all of that, then your job from day to day becomes somewhat minute and boring.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was the time frame from, hey, let's get into the construction to that first project?
I want to say 6 months.
That's not a lot of time.
Man.
Yeah, 6
That's
months.
not a lot of time.
Yeah, I want to say 6-7 months probably.
Get in there and figure it out. I mean, I feel like the bidding process on a lot of those jobs takes 6 months.
It's not. I mean, not really. Well, if you're waiting on getting awarded, possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch. It was hands on deck when we bid it. Trying to make sure we had our production rates because we didn't have production rates, so we had to like figure
make them up.
We had to figure them out.
Were you profitable on that first job?
Yeah, we were.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
we were.
Not easy to do, man.
We were profitable. I think we came in right at budget. Believe it or not, yeah. It took a lot of extra resources that we didn't plan on using to make it happen within the company. Yeah. But we came in on budget on that particular first project.
That's crazy. So where are you guys? I mean, obviously, I think you mentioned before, a lot of it's word of mouth and the work that you guys do and the quality. But is there something you guys are doing specifically, intentionally to gain business and
on the business development side, we're taking more of a consulting approach. We're trying to go after a lot more design build projects or design projects. Get in there, get in on the ground floor.
Right.
Work our expertise. Provide that value up front in recognition to getting the construction work later.
And then turning that into the maintenance work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing we'll be doing in 2021 is a lot more like webinars or seminars where we actually go into a general contractor's office and say, hey, for the superintendent and the project manager, here's everything you need to know about this scope. Here's all the things, all the outliers that come into this particular scope. Here's everything you need to know about the fencing, the gates, the utilities. And so we're doing a lot of that, so we become like the expert, and we're doing these free lunch and learn trainings, but at the same time we're giving them information, and at the same time the idea
providing
is that
your expertise and
of
displaying
value. And then we're doing that for the same thing, but for architects or landscape architects and engineers when it comes to water features of pools. Here's the things you need to know, or here's why you need to know them. So two different classes. One's architects and engineers, which is we're focused on the design side, and the other one is the construction side, which is the general contractors.
What's the breakdown in your work where you guys are the prime and it's only the pool or the water feature being built versus you're part of a larger scope of work?
Yeah,
where you have to kind of work with the GC.
On the prime side, I would say it's kind of died off. It was big in 2019 because we had some big projects. We were the prime. I would say in 2020, probably like 20% we were the prime, and the other 80% were basically under general contract.
So going to that consulting side, then for you guys, I would imagine it's a lot of maintaining relationships with bigger general contractors from the consulting side.
Yeah, we do pretty much the same work for the same people over and over again, which is great. But we can provide additional value to our clients as well, and also the developers. So things that if they're planning on the next resort, there's things that they can take from that going into the next planning on that as well. So, but really, it's like I said, think of it as we're a consultant and we're trying to provide value for services before you get to
that point,
the construction side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Becoming the expert.
Is that kind of where you find your role right now as far as that business development?
I spend a lot of
building.
I spend a lot of time on the estimating and business development side. Probably represents about 70% of what I do right now.
Wow. What does your management team look like? Who else do you have around you from management side?
So we have a director of construction, Mike Quickie, oversees pretty much project management. Danny Duenas is our general superintendent, oversees the entire field. Catherine Taylor is our controller, so she oversees all of accounting, purchasing, warehouse. We have a really good purchasing director named John Treat, takes care of all the purchasing, warehouse. Another gentleman by the name of Doug Wooten oversees the warehouse. Estimating is myself, our director of business development, Leanne, and then our estimator, Brett. So all three of us pretty much work on that. Yeah. And then my partner, Jeffrey Barman, oversees the service and repair services, the maintenance division of the company.
So I have to imagine you kind of, just hearing the way you talk and the way you operate, you kind of give those people free reign to run their part of the business, and then you just is it a situation where you guys have meetings to go over things at certain times, or so
estimating meetings are every Monday.
Yeah.
That's project selection and where we're at and updates. The project management team, they meet every Wednesday. They have WIP. I can't remember what day they have their WIP meetings, and they also have they call pool planning meetings with the field. That's actually an all hands on board meeting between project management, the field, the purchasing, warehouse, controller. Everybody's involved in that. And it's essentially just making sure the material when they need it is supposed to arrive, going through all the planning for the next week's work and stuff like that. Maintenance and repair, the division, they have I think monthly meetings on stuff like that, safety meetings.
Yep.
So every division operates a little bit differently and kind of isolated, but at the same time. They all report back either to myself or somebody else, and then that person's reporting. We have a lot of one-on-one meetings, so we're giving everybody updates. So like Mike Quickie, for example, and the director of construction is in the estimating meetings. He's there, and he's listening to everything, so he knows kind of what's going on, or if things are about to pop up, he's aware of it, so he can start getting his team ready. Yeah. And there's a lot of conversations I have with the general superintendent on what's coming up and manpower needs and so forth like that. So a lot of communication, interdepartment communication about that stuff, a lot of meetings. In order to stay on top of every little thing and communicate when things go bad.
Well, I think the key there, though, is that you're not involved with all of it, right? Like you've given the power to other people to communicate and take care of things.
Yeah, I'm more hands off on certain aspects, but the thing is what I've learned is I can see everything without having to be involved. So I know how to do that through our financial system and accounting. And stuff, I don't need to necessarily.
You can see trends in other places without having.
Yeah, I haven't a good. I spend enough time in the field to figure things out. Like I know enough to not have to deal with it. I guess you can say. Yeah. So I can see things from the accounting. There's reports that I'm supposed to get once a month from different people. And those tell me I'm able to project everything out from there. So I'm not having to be involved in the day-to-day minutia. But it's taken many, many years to get there. And even then, I'm still trying to get myself
to give up. Yeah, I was going to say, is that a mentality standpoint, or is that like a learning kind of thing?
I think it's a combination of both. It's like if you want the company to grow, then you have to be able to hire good people and get out of their way.
Right.
And you have to have systems and controls in place to make sure that you see what's happening, but you can't be involved in the day-to-day. Because what happens is, and this has happened with me, is I become the roadblock. things stop at me, and I can't, and I realized that, a couple of years ago. I'm like, well, everybody comes to me to get, I need you to look at this or do this. And I tried.
You only got so many hours.
I can't. I just couldn't. So I became the roadblock, and I recognized it right away. And even to that extent, like I've joined a Vistage group, here in Orange County that I love these guys. I mean, amazing business owners, but they've been really helpful and they've already gone through stuff like that. So they're able to guide me through that process. Yeah. And eventually you kind of take a step back and you realize you're not doing things correctly and you need to grow. And the way to grow is to basically, you have to slowly take, get out of the way. Give the reins to somebody else to start doing certain parts of it. And then have your processes in place so that you have you feel like you have that control and you can see what's happening. But other than that, let them do what they're supposed to do. Why are you paying them all this money?
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of pointless.
Well, and you're grinding yourself too, right? I mean, there's just only so many hours in a day. If you have to be the one to approve and check things off and answer everything, it becomes time consuming.
Well, the other thing too is if you're hiring the right people, if you're spending a lot of time and money and energy hiring the right people, you're kind of doing them a disservice if you're not allowing them to do their jobs, right? Because good people will leave. Good people don't necessarily take a job for money. They want autonomy. They want the ability to grow. They want the ability to do their own thing, like run their own, department. They want to feel supported. They want to feel like you have their backs. They also want to know that the company, has the right intentions. But if you don't, provide any of that support and that, that communication, and you do all that, then you're wasting your time hiring them.
Yeah. Well, they feel useless, right? I mean, So, kind of getting to the fun stuff. What are some of the most fun projects you got done, or the most crazy ones that are out there? Or
most proud of?
That's a good question. There's so many of them.
I mean, I have to imagine. Obviously, the first one is got to be what you're proud of.
It's kind of like a landmark for us. It was the beginning, right? Even when you go into our conference room, we have these huge paintings of both of that project. So that's cool. It's kind of like the beginning.
Any big resorts or fun pools, or what was most challenging or something?
The most challenging. That's a good question. I have to think about that for a second. There's so many different ones. I would think that we did this project in Fresno called the Fulton Mall Reconstruction. I want to say it's like 20 plus water features up and down the corridor. It's like essentially
like an indoor mall.
No, outdoors.
Outdoor?
Tons of them. It was just there was just a lot of issues in regards to the city and the inspectors. Yeah. And it's in Fresno and logistics and. It was like a 1.5 year long project, but that one stands out to me. There was just a lot of issues, things we had to deal with on multiple levels. I would say that one probably was one of the most challenging ones. Getting paid wasn't fun either. It was always a challenge.
That's the story of contractors, right?
The last couple we did Cambria Suites in Anaheim. Had a double water slide. I think that was a pretty cool project. It came out pretty well. I like that one. We just finished one in San Diego. It has another water slide. I kind of like the water slides. Yeah, they're actually not hard to do, and they're a lot of fun, and they bring joy to the end user at the end of the day. My little girls love seeing stuff like that. So.
Do they get to?
I was gonna say, do they test her?
I was gonna say, do they get to be first in line to test them?
No, they're a little too small for that. But eventually, someday, they might be. Yeah. I might put them on the team. We've done a lot of really cool water features with a lot of different special effects. We did this one out, not Ontario, but out there. But it had like fog and lighting. It just really, really cool. It's on our website, and there's a video there. But just some really cool special effects things that it's not huge. But just the special effects of what it does and what it looks like, especially at night, is pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
So there's some cool ones like that.
It's really fun too, because I mean, not only is it like you can see it and point at it and say I did that, but you could almost get into it, right? Like you could be a part of it, like you could experience it, you could feel it, like with the pools and the water features and
the water features are fun because they're more artistic.
Yeah.
They're harder because everything has to be precise. Like in a pool, if the guys are off a half inch on a pool, you'll never know unless it's a rim flow pool. Right. For the most part, you would know. Yeah. But on a water feature, if you're off a 1/4 of an inch and you have water flowing down it, you'll know. So the engineering and the construction, the details have to be dead
spot on. Yeah.
And when you have the right people, now building a pool is so much easier, especially like a 50-meter rim flow Olympic-sized pool is a lot easier if you're used to doing a construction like on a water feature like this. You understand the actual aspect of it is exactly the same. Yeah. The end result has to be the same. So you already know what you're dealing with. If you didn't have that experience, you would make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. So what's the future look like for you guys? I mean, 14 million now. Is there a plan to grow? Is there?
Yeah, I think right now we're focused on 2021 technology, training development. Those are the two big things. So
kind of create efficiency and be able to do more at the same time. Yeah,
we're working on the goal for 2021. We'll be working more on recurring revenue. So on our service and repair departments, I have some plans and forth to get that set up to where it's automated, so I can start acquisitions. Yeah. So that'll be the next thing that I start focusing on is acquisitions on that. But
Staying
I want to create
inside
more
California or geographically expanding? Or?
Right now, the only place I would expand to would probably be Las Vegas. I've looked into Arizona. The gross profits just don't make sense. It's very there's a lot of competition there, so everything's price sensitive. I like Vegas a lot.
That'd be fun to get into some of those resort stuff.
Vegas is, and we have a lot of contacts there. So Vegas is a good one. I haven't really expanded too much out of that. I think if we do everything correctly here in California, I don't know that we need to really go much further. I do like Texas, but Texas is a whole different beast. Yeah. I do have employees now working in Texas, so working remotely.
Remotely? From like office staff working remote?
So I've had thoughts, but nothing on paper yet, and I don't know where that's going to take us. That might be a 3 to 5 year plan. But next year, like I said, service recurring revenue is my big focus for 2021. Be able to, because the construction stuff it's boom and bust, right? So really want to focus on the recurring revenue, get that up, and also technology, drive that training development. I want to get my staff up to a higher level. If I can do that and we can be successful at that, I think it affords us some opportunities to grow in 2022, 2023. Yeah. Because I don't think 2021 is going to be the greatest year. Yeah. For the construction industry.
For what reason?
COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Projects being
delayed. I think it's the backlash now. Everything. Yeah.
You know, like hospitality, we do a lot of hospitality. Well, hospitality is struggling right now. So, you know, I think that's going to. I think some of the components of the construction industry are going to get pushed back. So I don't think overall the industry is going to do well in 2021. We're lucky because we have a backlog. So the projects we were slated to do 2021
and a pool still needs to be maintained. Pool still needs to be maintained, right? Even if nobody
exactly. So we're fortunate to be in the position we're in, but I think when I study the industry, the supply of work is definitely shrinking for us 2021. So the last 6 months, we've been focused on that because we knew this was going to happen. So we're actually at a pretty good position right now. We're not having to stress too much going into the year. But I don't see next year being a great year for the industry as a whole. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope so too.
But we'll see.
Yeah. So before we kind of wrap it up, something we like to talk about with a lot of people is the marketing aspect. I know that you said you're not huge on it or you know, you're not all about it, but you've obviously posted pictures and that's a big part of it. Other things you guys are doing outside of that to be on any sort of social platforms or digital or, you know, intentionally doing those kind of things?
Yeah, we do. So our director of business development, she pretty much handles all the marketing. So the website gets updated on every project. She writes all the content. We have a professional photographer we pay to go out and actually do all the photos on every project. So we create a web page for each one of those. We do have Facebook, I believe a couple other different outlets that we use for social media, but that doesn't really drive, like, in my opinion, like the next project. It just basically after you have the experience, you don't really need to go back and say,
it's more of
all
your
these
reference.
Projects I've done.
It's your reference list, right? Like,
And I think that works in the first 5 years. You know, you need that.
Yeah.
I think, but I think now where we're at is we've already kind of built the relationships. We've done enough where we just need to continue focusing on the client, focusing on the quality. And
where it might help you is if you're going to somewhere like Vegas or Arizona or something like that, or Texas, right? Like somebody can look to you and say, "Oh, look at all this work that they've done somewhere." You know, you're going into a new market where people don't know you or that your reputation's not there, that stuff can kind of be out in front of you.
That's a very good point. Yes, and that would be something that we'd probably use it for then.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff is
it's already there, right? I mean, you guys are doing the right steps. You don't really need to do much. Like you said, it's not going to drive business for you guys. It's more of a showcase of
it's
and
the
your
referrals,
testimonials,
the business, the fact that he's been able to do what he said he's going to do when he said he was going to do it. Yeah.
I think the other thing too is important is, like I said, the lunch and learns. I think that's marketing.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
I think stuff like that is going to be important in the future. I think that's like more hands-on. Like you already have a relationship. Maybe you don't have a relationship, but if you don't, you're building that relationship. And if you do have a relationship, you're strengthening it. Because it's all about relationships.
100%. Cool, man. Well, we appreciate you taking the time with us.
No problem. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Was this your first podcast?
I think so.
That's awesome.
What is that?
I think so. May have been soundbited on something else somewhere. No.
Possibly.
Yeah, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much. Stay safe out there.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me.
We'll keep in touch.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, man. Have a good one. Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.